Welcome to Watkins Glen International Raceway in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, as we are here for qualifying. A very busy Saturday morning of racing in terms of qualifying and setting grids. And I don't think we could have had a better day for it in terms of the conditions. Absolutely beautiful, cool, brisk. Tires and engines are loving it. We're seeing some great speed, some great lap times out of all these cars. And now we get the TCR and the TCA machines out on track. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish. And you take a look at the two practice sessions from yesterday. Mason Filippi and the TCR, the Hyundai Veloster, had a 158.0 to top one of the sessions. Mike McCann in the Audi Sport RS3 had a 157.8 to top the other one. And we've got a good turnout of cars here. And there's a look at your TCR. Now remember, there's a subcategory, the TCR Cup, and that's for the cars that do not run a sequential gearbox.
Yes, and the big problem I see right now is we've got 3.4 miles of racetrack and everyone's decided to be on about 1/10 of it. So,
exactly.
You see the FCP Euro guys really working the tires here, trying to generate some tire temp, get the pressures built up into those Pirelli P0s. And then I think everyone needs to settle in, find a rhythm, and find some space on the racetrack.
That's going to be the biggest thing, obviously, is a little bit of room here. And the problem is if you go out too fast, too early for a TCR car, then you catch the TCA traffic. That can affect your lap as well. So it really is a bit of a chess match to find that open space, isn't it?
It really is, and you could certainly wait almost a lap, but then you run the risk. It's only a 15-minute session, so you don't have a lot of time to play with. There's definitely a strategy, and you need to get it right. You're typically going to find that the tires will be good for probably about 2 to 3 laps before they start to fall off their peak. But what conditions? We haven't even topped into the 60-degree range yet this morning, just hovering around 59 degrees ambient right now. The racetrack has got super grip in any weather condition, let alone in these cool, crisp conditions here. So the engine will be peaking nicely. And there should be plenty of grip to attack this inner loop as we see our championship leader on the approach.
Absolutely. The number 71 of Michael Hertzen in the VW Golf GTI from FCP Euro. And the Liqui-Moly car, ooh, a little bit of rotation there.
Yeah, and that talking to his teammate yesterday, that's one of the things he was discussing with me, is how effective that rear wing is. I mean, sometimes you think, how effective is that? Well, he said it really worked. He said Michael Hertzen wasn't convinced, and then they went to a previous event this year, and the engineer took all of the wind, stalled the rear wing out. Michael came immediately back in. He said, okay, I get it. It works. So what you want to do, you don't have front aero to adjust. You can adjust the rake and adjust the suspension settings in terms of finding the grip on the front end. But certainly that rear wing is really where you're trying to find the balance of the race car. You can't afford to trim out too much, even though you've got some long straightaways here, because you have some really deep brake zones you need the wing to be working in. And particularly through the carousel and corners like that, that rear wing and downforce is really going to affect the lap time you can achieve.
It's always that trade-off, isn't it? That straight line speed versus speed in long duration, high-speed corners where you want as much grip as you can. And do want to say a big welcome back to a team that we don't see often enough. It's great when they can come down from Canada and run. Tooth Autosport. Eddie Colleen, who we've enjoyed having with us. He made his debut in this championship last year right here at the Glen. And Travis Hill joining him this weekend in the number 41, the team car to Eddie's number 37. Let's see what unfolds here. Yes, it was Hertzen momentarily, and now Filippi slices through in the number 12.
Yeah, and he's right there. He's going to pick up a really nice draft here up through the S's. This could be a big first sector for Mason Filippi. Can he clear Hertzen by the time they get to the brake zone will be the key to this lap.
Up through this sequence of corners, and great toe opportunity, but you're right. You need cooperation from the guy in front. I'm not sure. Whoa, and a huge loop here and a touch to the wall. That is the 69 of Chris Haldeman.
Could have been a lot worse.
Oh, boy.
He scrubbed a lot of speed before he finally just dinged the Armco barrier there. Looks like he really attacked the inner loop curbs and just loses it here on the second one. I don't think the tire grip was quite there to attack that aggressively. Probably need another lap of tire temp to be generated.
Yeah, he had topped the second practice session in the TCA category at a 2-minute 10.1. As you said, a little bit early in the session here. He's just trying to get it back down and get it looked at in pit lane here. Last time that team, or he raced here, was in 2016. And, had a pretty good run, running in the NASA Nationals and Spec Miatas, and he said this car around this track is huge fun. It's just maybe, as you said, maybe a little too early to attack at that level.
Victor Gonzalez has a big lap going, massive first sector. I'm not sure if he pulled the drop. We're not looking at him right now in the 99 car, but watch for him to maybe leap up the order a little bit.
I talked to him, and in the break since Portland, they have done really gone through that car, done a lot of work. Oh, and another incident here. This is the number 95 of Ben Bettenhausen, one of our TCA entries in the Subaru BRZ TS from Tech Sport. And he got into that outside barrier, as you can see. This is down, is this the laces?
Yeah, it just gets in deep and just, ooh, that's a big one. That is a big one. Probably going to go caution here. So everyone needs to nail this lap. Philippi on top with a new fast lap.
Yeah, that right
Actually,
rear.
McCann Jr. jumps to the top.
Oh, what a lap. 57.1. That was interesting. It looked like that right rear locked up as we have a red flag. Session is red flag, which means that last lap probably will be negated. Usually when a red flag comes out, they go back to the previously completed lap, which would be unfortunate for McCann, who really put in a stellar lap.
He did. Gonzalez had a great lap going, then had to abort the final sector, so he's plummeted down from 2nd to 6th in that last little shuffle there before this incident.
That's a doorless Mini. Out there right now, the number 62, that's Tomas Mieja. One of 4 Mini Cooper, JCW Mini Coopers in the field. The Mini JCW team. And nice to see Louis Pericupro actually running one of them as well, isn't it? Who runs the team.
Certainly great to see team members, whether they're engineers or whatever, have seat time, because I think from a driver you can really relate in a much more detailed way when someone really has a true feel for what's going on with the race car.
It's interesting. He's done a fair amount of driving, but the last big win he had was in the Baja 1000 in his class. Said he's been really having some fun doing a lot of off-road stuff. So at this stage, obviously, red flag, everybody's just going to make their way back in. There's McCann, who really, that was a superb lap that he had put in. I also want to just acknowledge something here. Taylor Hagler, who runs with the X Factor team, she matched a couple of her best finishes of the year at Portland. She topped the first practice session yesterday here over a Gus field of some pretty talented drivers like Tyler Maxson, Norenberg, Whitmer, Pombo, Gronke.
She's the real deal.
She is. Did a very, very solid job. And in the second practice session, she was still right up in the sharp end of things, up in the top 5. So she's just getting more and more comfortable with the Honda Civic SI. All right, here's what happened to the 62 Mini of Mejia. Making here his first start. There it is in pit lane. It just dislodged. It was almost like it was a booster getting ejected.
Yeah, I don't think those doors, I mean, some of the GT cars, true race cars, let's call it that way, not a street car derivative, kind of on pins where they lift them off, but I don't think that one is designed that way, so I'm not sure what happened there for it to detach itself that way.
So at this stage, if McCann's lap holds, he would be at the top of the order, followed by Filippi, and then James Walker had put in a good lap as well.
Yeah, FCP Euro machines have got a bit of work to do, sitting in 4th and 5th. Clock should stop here with a red flag for qualifying, but obviously a lot of work to be done to the racetrack, and then a decision will be made, as we do in fact see the clock continuing to tick. Is it 10 minutes certain they need to take?
Now watch that right rear or left rear. Just it's just bizarre because I don't know whether it locked up or it was the left front that locked.
Certainly went in at a big rate of speed.
Significant rate of speed. Talking about Walker, he was really excited about today. I had a chance to be able to chat with him. His first ever time on a racetrack in a track day was here in 1991.
Wow.
And over the years has had a lot of wins in SCCA club races, especially in 02 and 03 when he was running an improved touring Saturn. Last ran here in Ferrari Challenge in 2018 and had fastest race laps on both days, but was really, really pumped about the potential for this qualifying session here, as he had a couple of purple sectors in practice sessions yesterday and said purple meaning fastest overall and in that second practice session. So he was really looking forward to having the chance to show it today, but unfortunately this red flag is going to null out some of that. And he had asked me, so I just wanted to make sure I did, along with Helipagged Brake Systems, another big sponsor in the cars, KBE Plus. It's an engineering firm that specializes in gear designs, transmission, powertrain, and owner Mark McVeigh is part of the crew this weekend. And they just wanted to say a big thanks to them, so thought we would do that for him at this stage, and hopefully everybody gets a chance to get out and give another run at this, Cal.
Yes. It's not looking good, though, if that clock is not going to be stopped. This may be the end of the day for the session. What a performance by McCann Jr.
Yeah. Yeah, very impressive. And I mean, that was by a big margin, too.
Yeah, he really put one together there.
I mean, it's six tenths clear of Filippi. Then Walker third, Hertzen and Vincent, who are 1-2 in the points right now over Filippi.
Filippi hasn't done all of the rounds, so kind of has hindered his championship potential.
And then in the TCR Cup, it is point leader Brian Putt in the FCP Euro Audi that leads over the 18 of Vida.
He's had a pretty tasty year, hasn't he, Brian Putt?
He has.
6 wins, 10 podiums, which means every single race.
Yeah, he has been just solid. And interesting, coming from, raced a long, long time ago, and then realized that he was leaving his family an awful lot to go racing, and he said, you know what, I need to hang around and raise my kids. And his son became a world-class motorcycle trials rider and ended up doing the full world tour for that. And he said it was one of the most special parts of his life. He said he was able to travel the world watching his son do trials riding. And when that got established and everything was done, he went, you know what, I realized I still missed it, so started doing SCCA racing and what they call P1 and P2 and the high downforce prototypes, and really did well in it. And so he said, I want to look at doing something pro, and heard about the TCR cars with a lot of downforce.
Yes.
And he said, well, that sounds like a sensible route, and boy, has he been impressive.
Yeah, probably a good transition if you're running prototypes that are kind of glued. These cars are glued as well in terms of the downforce that they create. Really impressive machines. And the series has been really fun to commentate on this year with the two classes. I think it's important that we have the separation there with the sequential and the non-sequential boxes. And here we look at the order.
And behind Putt, they're in 8th overall. This is what a debut for Steven Vida. If you remember, it was at Sonoma. They showed up for their first race, and he promptly qualified top 3, and I think he had one of the fast race laps, and everybody was going, wow, this is impressive. And you know, okay, is that just a one-off fluky thing? No, every time he's run, he's been that good, and sits right there now, 2nd over Eddie Colleen. Great to have Eddie Colleen 3rd in the Cup class, and it's Maxon, Whitmer, and Pombo, 1, 2, 3 in TCA.